Jesus Christ. Just put all in. I can lose 2 buy-ins. There you go. God bless America. Son of a goddamn bitch.
Where is the moment we needed the most?
I really get tired of people calling me. I really do.
And welcome back to the show, everyone. Well, the time we've all been waiting for has finally arrived. It's time to welcome our first guest to the show today, Tony Sandstrom, infamously known in the online poker world as Toughfish. A special thanks to cardrunners.com for helping coordinate this interview. Tony, thanks for calling in, and welcome to the Pocketfives.com podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We'd like to start out by asking you the obvious question. Tell us about the Toughfish character. And did you base him on a person, perhaps yourself, or where did you come up with the idea?
Well, the name Toughfish was basically just made up when I started playing online poker. I was thinking to myself, fitting names and things, and they were talking about fish and stuff, and I said, well, you know what, I'm going to be one tough fish for them. That's a good name. I'll just call myself Toughfish, and that's where the name came from.
Well, Toughfish has become recognized and well-known throughout the online poker world for rants, taking bad beats, and some of the best videos ever made, quite frankly. At the end of the day, what motivates you to keep coming back and one-upping yourself?
I don't know how familiar any of you are with how this whole thing got started. As you know, I was a member of Card Runners, and Card Runners has a feature where, the members make their own videos and submit them. So I started making videos. I got Camtasia and figured out how to do it and made some videos. And I made quite a number of them. But they were never intended for huge, widespread circulation. They were basically, and my idea of Card Runners at that time was just, these just few guys that get together and trade ideas and what have you. So, I was making these videos and I didn't think too much of it. And, sometimes I would just get very exasperated, if you will. And at the end of that, so I got recorded. And, and I did this a number of times, and people were saying, why are you getting so upset? Well, because, I had reason to get upset, I thought. So, I was just recording these things, and we were just going along just great. And then apparently somebody leaked these things over to 2+2 and I guess several other places. And, then finally somebody gave me a heads up that this was all happening. And it wasn't my idea, believe me. At first I was very kind of put off by the whole thing, but it was obviously the horse had long since gone out of the barn, so I just went ahead and decided to play it. But I've never really been able to duplicate the spirit of the original videos. I've made some videos since, and sometimes I'm trying to be funny and all that, but I think that my latter videos after this all came out haven't been nearly the same quality, if you will, as the original ones. It was never really intended to be widespread.
So what you're saying is the original Toughfish videos, the first couple of them, were probably more frank and perhaps more accurate to the way you were feeling, and maybe in the later ones they were a little fake?
Spontaneous would be the word. And no, that actually, I probably made 50 or 60, so the ones you've all seen were all made before. See, when they got hold of my website, I probably had 50 or 60 videos on there. And so, of course, a lot of them were just dull and boring, and, lots of segments on them were dull and boring, and that, of course, isn't what got attention. So almost everything that you've seen that has a lot of fun in it was done before that, it became known.
Now, have you changed your persona as a result of the online poker community's reaction to your videos?
Yeah, I have. It changed. One, I did a couple of videos since then and realized that there just was no way I was ever going to duplicate the spirit of the first videos, and so I didn't try. I've done a couple of tournaments where I was half in the bag or pretending to be half in the bag anyhow. And, some of them were kind of funny, but they were intended to be funny, and I knew once I knew I was being recorded, once I knew it was going to be widespread, it really just was never the same.
Several of our players have noticed that you've played much more infrequently under the Toughfish name recently. Why is this, and do you have a plan to play more under it in the future?
Well, when Party was still going, I played on Party quite a bit, and I was under the Toughfish name for a while after all this broke loose. It got to where, I was really literally being followed around. I'd get on there, and they have these buddy lists and fish finders and what have you that, I would suddenly find myself in the midst of some very familiar faces. So Party, I kind of died out. I played on UB and Full Tilt for quite a while under some different names that were not well known. And now, since all this other business has happened, I play on PokerStars only because that's the only place I have any money. play, and I still play under the name of Toughfish.
Now, several others have chosen to mimic your style and character recently. Do you take this as flattery, or are you upset by what some of these people have chosen to do?
Well, I've never seen any of the mimics, so I don't know how well they're doing it, but my opinion is if you're trying to be like I was, you're not going to be very successful, because all of that stuff, especially the really famous rants and raves, were totally spontaneous and unrehearsed and straight from the heart, if you will, and it's very difficult to come up with that, when you're trying to be that way. And I found that myself. I've told people, I said, there's just no way that I'll ever be able to make those kind of videos again. So, is it flattery? I don't know. I think if I had it all to do, I probably would never put these things out. I don't think I was shown in a very good light for the most part. It was all true. I mean, I was acting that way. I don't particularly think I was acting well. And if somebody's trying to mimic somebody having a meltdown, I'm not sure what to think of that exactly.
Well, Tony, let me ask you this, now that we have you on the line. How do you look at your no-limit hold'em game? Because several people have posted, some of them say, wow, Toughfish, he seems to lose his ass every time he plays. And then other people come on and say, well, no, he actually seems like a decent player. How do you look at your no-limit hold'em game? I guess the fair way to ask this would be in those first videos that have become so popular. And do you play the same style always now?
Well, obviously, the videos showed me at my very worst game, at least the ones that are widely circulated. The videos, the most famous ones, the ones were when I was coming down from having built up a decent little bankroll. I'd gone on a pretty good heater. I'd gone from $600 on Party up into the $15,000 range, and that was just a run of luck, a heater. And most of those weren't recorded, and I was sorry. I said, well, wow, I had a really good game tonight. I just didn't record it. But what did get recorded was the flip side of that heater when I couldn't do anything right.
When you got shit for cards, right?
I was cold deck for a while, and of course cold deck makes you play bad. And then I played badly, and then I tilted and played even worse. And then, so my games that everybody's familiar with were one of my worst. I'm not a real good strong player. A lot of these people on the forums play more in a couple of weeks, and I played all my life. So, I mean, I'm not a professional poker player. I am trying to get better. By and large, when I'm not recording, I tend to play a much better game because, I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. When I'm recording, it is a distraction.
We're going to ask you this. Can you give us your favorite Toughfish moments and maybe recreate it here on the podcast for Pocketfives.com?
I doubt very seriously, but I can recreate. Well, obviously the segment is the one that comes to mind immediately, and that was just I literally just couldn't speak. I was just so exasperated. I knew I'd played a horrible hand. I knew I'd done very badly, and things had come out exactly as anybody was thinking. And I was just exasperated, and I couldn't talk.
I guess that's the pocket sevens hand against ace king. Is that the hand we're talking about here?
That's exactly correct.
Yeah. Well, I guess when the second king comes on the turn, I guess you're thinking, well, maybe he doesn't have a king, but you were pretty sure you were beating that hand, right?
Well, when he turned it over, I just said, well, how stupid can you be? Basically is what I was thinking to myself. The other moment that comes to mind is when Empire Maker 2 goes all in and I call him and he catches his flush on the river. When I had him, I'd read that sort of okay, and I pretty much knew what he was trying to do, and I was just very exasperated when he caught his card. And I says, oh, you scum. And that a lot of people have picked up that was one of the ones they remember, and those are really the only two moments that I remember off the top of my head.
Well, we want to know the real Tony Sandstrom as well, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, how old are you?
I'm 61 years old.
And where'd you go to school?
Graduated from the University of Washington as far as college goes. I grew up in Louisiana and went to Louisiana Tech for a little while, and then went in the Navy for 4 years because they had a little fracas going over in Vietnam, and I didn't particularly feel compelled to go over there. So I spent 4 years in the submarine service.
What are your interests outside of poker?
I follow politics a lot. I rant and rave, read the editorial pages, and clear to my wife, my poor long-suffering wife, I might add, that, how much better a job I could do than all these. So I follow politics and that and work and poker, that takes up, I mean, and then you just do your normal, whatever it is you do, go to the store and stuff.
And how many hours a week do you spend playing poker?
Lately, I haven't been able to spend a whole lot of time. I've been slammed at work. I've just spent a lot of time lately messing around on the forums, arguing with people about, what's going on in poker, and my contention is that online poker right now is in a lot of trouble, and a lot of people don't want to believe that. And my contention was also that had nothing happened, I think the online poker game was changing not for the better, just because of all the people that were in it and how many people they were and how they were playing, and they were simply cleaning out the recreational players. Not everybody's like me; they're not stubborn, and they keep coming back. And I then, because I spend a lot of time working, I work for a company called Space Dev, and we do satellites and rocket motors.
Well, you have a website, you say, where you've got all these videos, and we're happy to plug that website for you here on the podcast. What is it so we can direct our listeners to it?
www.fstln.com, and it's still there, I think. I haven't looked for a long time. But the videos, I was moving them, and apparently I moved them to oblivion.
Well, that sucks. Well, how did that happen? Did you just...
I was moving files around. I thought I was moving them to one place, and apparently wherever I moved them to, I got rid of it. I got rid of the folder that they were in without realizing that that's where I'd put everything. And so they're mostly gone. There's a few of them scattered around, but they're mostly gone. But I tried to capitalize this with T-shirts and stuff, but everybody was full of talk, but I didn't sell very many T-shirts. I mean, you can still go on the site. You can see my picture. You can see my daughter who's modeling the T-shirts. Everybody's interested in Toughfish.
Have there been any mentors along the way, Tony, that have helped you with your game?
Other than online help like card runners, no. I've gotten a lot of advice. Most of it has been quit poker.
But I think we've all gotten that advice at one point in our careers. Even
no, I haven't had a mentor or a teacher or someone like that, and that probably shows in my play.
Well, finally, we want to give our listeners what they've been waiting for here. So if you could indulge us just a little here, in your best Toughfish voice, tell us what you thought of your experience on the Pocketfives podcast over the last few minutes.
Great!
Well, Toughfish, Tony Sandstrom, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a break, then come back with our second guest, Scott Weiler, who goes by the online name of Steely. He's on deck when the Pocketfives.com podcast continues after this.
Last month's traffic on my site was down again. I'm giving up. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. These poker players have no fear. No fear at all. I wish there was a way to get my hands on over 100,000 of them every month. Then I could really grow my business or launch a new product.
Have I got a solution for you? Pocketfives.com has immediate openings for banner advertisements as well as several exciting sponsorship opportunities. We can put you in touch with the many fans of this show as well as some of the best online poker players anywhere. Don't let your message go unheard.
By golly gee, it worked!
Email Dan at Pocketfives.com for more information right now.